Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, and I am streaming live from Rapid City, South Dakota, and it's beautiful in the area today. I know Dakotas get such a bad name for so much snow and bad weather. And North Dakota is getting hammered or was getting hammered with snow, but South Dakota is beautiful. I think it's supposed to be 65 today. So I'm super happy to be here. And I'm super happy to have Dr. Kourtney Sanfelice, our resident pharmacist, back on our show today. You don't want to miss out on this episode because you're going to learn about functional medicine. She helped write a book called Creating the Functional Medicine Revolution. And she actually wrote chapter 10, and she's going to be discussing that and functional medicine and just what inspired the book. So welcome to our show today. And Kourtney, welcome back to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Shawn. How are you?
I am doing awesome.
Thanks great.
So tell us, let's just start off, and we've talked about it on the podcast many times before, because it's something that we do at our pharmacy really with hormone replacement. I think hormone replacement is one of the first functional medicines because functional medicine is basically fixing problems instead of just treating symptoms. So tell us your definition of functional medicine.
So basically, functional medicine is, like you said, it's getting down to that root cause, finding out why a certain medical condition is happening and kind of treating it from that source versus, the proverbial traditional way of just like slapping a Band-Aid on it. There's a pill for every ill, and really looking at what's going on in your body. Could it be something that's imbalanced? Is it something nutrition related? Overall lifestyle? I mean, the things that you can change by just getting in physical activity every day and just eating the right foods is just amazing. So, functional medicine is basically getting to that root cause, learning how to decrease the toxic load in your body. So where you're doing greener things, whether it be the things you're putting not only in your body, on your body, on the different products that you use, and really just trying to live a healthier life and staying healthy rather than getting sick and then having to treat the illness.
So give us an example of a symptom that might be functional medicine that can be fixed with functional medicine.
A lot of times what I'm seeing right now is a lot of adrenal fatigue, a lot of hormone imbalance, like you said, whether it be sex hormones, whether it be thyroid hormones, whether it be just your adrenals. A lot of people are super stressed, running on fight or flight mode, just trying to balance out life, just the crazy world we live in, not to mention just trying to balance out family and work and just get it all together. And a lot of people don't understand that could be something where you're not getting the right nutrients. You don't have the right micronutrients, maybe that you're not absorbing into your body. Perhaps you have a mineral imbalance, which a lot of people, taking something as simple as taking, a hair sample and seeing if you have any heavy metal toxicity built up, or if you're imbalanced. It has a lot to do with ratios of different minerals in your body, where if one is off, it might just be something as simple as adding more of another one to balance it out so that you're not feeling symptomatic.
I see. So let's get, like, for instance, what would some symptoms of the toxicities of heavy metal poisoning be?
It could be fatigue, brain fog. It could be migraines. Overall, I said fatigue. A lot of fatigue, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, depression. Just overall, just not feeling good.
So you mentioned depression. You mentioned anxiety. So what are some medications that are typically prescribed for those?
Usually the first thing you see is people going on an SSRI. And I have to say that I was victim to that. So in my early 20s, I suffered from anxiety, and it was a weird kind of anxiety where I wasn't depressed. I was just in pharmacy school, and I would get these little random 30 to 60 second bouts of where my hands and feet would go numb. I'd have palpitations, and it was like, what the heck is this? And then it would happen to the point where it was happening, 8 to 10 times a day. And of course, went to the doctor, explained what was going on. Oh, you have anxiety. Right off the bat, back then it was Zoloft, and I got a script for Klonopin, like Klonopin. I'm like, for a 30-second attack, like what? So, right off the bat, it was like, okay, medicine. So that was the only thing that that would help me control these panic attacks. And every time I tried to go off, they would come back, and I would just go right back to the medication. I hated the side effects. I hated being on them and having to rely on that. Which is actually what inspired me to even get into this path of functional medicine. I started to use CBD. I discovered CBD about 5.5 years ago, and I started to use that. And in 1 week, I was able to taper off of a medication that I was on for 16 years, which made me be like what? My mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. And I just kind of hit the ground running, researching it, helping a lot of my patients in the pharmacy with it, whether it be for anxiety and depression, whether it be for all different types of pain, migraines, seizures, you name it. We have somebody in the pharmacy that's using CBD successfully for it, which has kind of led me to even further just educate. I did a program through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I learned a lot about nutrition and, how to keep that in balance, which led me to functional medicine. And now it's just one step along the way of just kind of getting myself healthy, turned into a whole different path in my career, which is pretty amazing.
Well, and it seems that story is pretty common when it comes to medical healthcare professionals that get into functional medicine. It seems like one of the reasons they got into it is to fix themselves first.
Absolutely.
I've talked to many doctors that are in functional medicine that's what happened to them. And now they use functional medicine to treat their patients because they know that's ultimately the fix instead of, a medication to just treat symptoms. So thank you for that, sharing that story.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what the book is all about. The book is exactly just that. It is me, as well as 15 other clinicians, pharmacists, doctors, nurse practitioners, and we all have our own unique story. We all have a chapter in the book where we tell not only our story of how we transformed our own health with functional medicine, but how it really gave us an understanding of how we could help others in our careers and are kind of either, integrating it into our daily practice, or really just switching over altogether and saying there's a better answer. It's not in alignment anymore with me filling a basket of pills and just sending them all out and being like, okay, have a great day. It just doesn't work for me anymore. And I still work at the pharmacy, and I as probably my staff, I drive them crazy, but I'm constantly, trying to help people all the time with that prescription you're on, are you taking this supplement? Or I have a better answer for you, or what's your nutrition like? But how busy you can get in the pharmacy, but I'm always in there just trying to do my thing.
Yeah, well, good for you. And I'm glad that, there's pharmacists like you that are out there to really help patients, because I don't think medications, and I think, being two pharmacists like we are, saying medications aren't a treatment aren't the answer to every problem is a very powerful statement. And, my wife and I say that all the time, and we don't think chronic medication use is, a good treatment for most chronic disease. Short term, I think anxiety medication is necessary. I think, even antidepressants are necessary, but long term, I don't think they are. So.
Agreed. And I think that there's people that have a balance. And I see working with in general with my clients, and I'm not saying, especially as a pharmacist, hey, you should always talk with your clinician that you're working with. Don't try and take CBD and taper yourself off of medications. You were put on that medication from your healthcare provider. You should always talk to them and say, hey, is there a more natural way? Can we discuss this? Or find a practitioner that's willing to work with you, where it becomes more of that integrative medicine. So some people will say, well, what's the difference between functional medicine and integrative medicine? And they're kind of like one and the same. I think integrative medicine is used more when actual prescribing clinicians are still prescribing prescription medications, because hey, let's not get it wrong. There's a time and a place for prescriptions, like you just said. It's not that we're saying that everything is doom and gloom with prescriptions and taking medication. Healthcare can be pretty amazing for certain health conditions, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at things, you're looking at a perspective of, okay, I'm taking this, and then you just notice, like I notice it in the pharmacy. one second they're on one prescription and then they're on 3 or 4, and now they're treating side effects from the prescription with other prescriptions, and it's like a snowball effect. And there's so many people that just don't realize it, and then there's the people that do realize it that say, hey, I want help. What else can I do? I don't want to keep adding new prescriptions to the mix. I want to live a healthier lifestyle. And that's really what it all comes down to.
Yeah, for sure. I think that people forget that, our bodies are designed wonderfully if we take care of them, and they don't necessarily need medications. And I think medications were designed to help us in certain conditions. But, long term, if we exercise right, we eat right, we sleep right, our bodies can take care of itself. So.
Absolutely. And I find that a lot of my clients, and I find that I was that person, you become a mom and you have kids and you start doing all of this stuff and you put yourself last, you start to you take care of everybody else. All the kids have their doctor's appointments. Everything's in line. You're making sure the kids are getting the right food. You're doing everything. And then you take a step back like 10 years later and you're like, wait a minute, am I taking care of myself?
Right.
So I know just over the past few years how my life, I'm the healthiest I've been, coming up on 42 this week. I feel like I'm the healthiest I feel like I'm the healthiest I've ever been, because I've learned through the past couple of years of going through different educational courses through nutrition and through functional medicine that I know what I need to do to take care of myself, both physically and mentally. So it's kind of cool to see yourself transition, and it's really awesome to help people as well.
It is awesome, and you're looking great, by the way, and happy early birthday.
Thank you.
I think one thing I read about in my book is, is that the healthcare professionals in general don't take care of themselves a lot of times. I mean, and I'll just tell people, if you want to go have lunch at a hospital sometime, usually they have public cafeterias, go have lunch at a hospital and look at all the metabolically unhealthy, obese people that are in a hospital. And we're supposed to be healthy. We're supposed to be in healthcare. We're supposed to be healthy, and we're not. So taking care of ourselves and being a good example for our patients is very, very important.
Yes, it definitely is. And I know I fall victim to it in the pharmacy when, you're having a busy day and I'll look at my water bottle and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I drank this much in a 10-hour shift, or, I haven't even
Right.
stopped to eat something, and it's if you don't plan for that and prep for your day, it's a disaster. It turns out, not good.
That's right. So tell us, what inspired creating the Functional Medicine Revolution book?
So Dr. Kourtney Manukyan, who is the founder of the Story Institute, we are all clinicians that are pharmacists, doctors, nurse practitioners, chiropractors, where we're all kind of changing the trajectory of our practice, where we're adding more functional medicine to what we're doing. And she actually was a co-author in a book, which is how I discovered her. I read her book, Pivot with Purpose. And when I read about her, I was like, wow, this chick's cool. She sounds just like me. She was a pharmacist who was just burnt out from the hamster wheel of just doing the same old over and over again, and not really being in alignment with what she really wants to do. And I read that, and I connected with her, and I joined the academy, and I learned more about functional medicine. And this book, Creating the Functional Medicine Revolution, is the second in her series of best-selling books. And the last group was, I think there were 20 clinicians in the last book. That was called Unleash the Story Within. And it was the same kind of format where it was clinicians telling their story and how they changed their health and their careers. And now this is the second one in the series. And Dr. Manukyan, she's just an amazing inspiration. She was somebody who worked in a hospital pharmacy. She had the high profile job, and she literally went to the doctor, and she was 100 pounds overweight. And the doctor said, like, you're you're going to die if you don't do something about this. She lost over 100 pounds. She became a bodybuilder. She was on the stage as Wonder Woman. I mean, in this bodybuilding competition, she was just so inspirational. When I saw her, it was like phenomenal. I was just like so inspired. And the fact that she did this and changed her health around and is helping people do this now in their own sense, and now it's helping us as clinicians help people do it. It's just an amazing, just trickle down effect that we're all going through together. So it's pretty awesome.
That's a great story. Very inspiring. So you had the honor of writing one chapter, correct?
I did.
So
yes.
what is the chapter's title, and tell us about it?
So my title's chapter is When You Know It's Time for Change, and it's chapter 10. And it's about my story with CBD. So like I was saying earlier, I was taking antidepressants for 16 years, with the exception of when I was pregnant with my son. And, something that it was a cycle. I didn't want to be on them. Every time I tried to go off, they would just come back. And when I found CBD, my boss, the owner of the pharmacy, he had come back from a convention, and it was on the shelf in the pharmacy, and I saw it, and I'm like, what the heck is this? This is cannabis. I'm like, is this legal? And this was like 5.5 years ago, when it was sketchy. At least it was here in Pennsylvania. So I was like, what is this? What are these products? And it was even before the 2018 Farm Bill was passed, where it was legal to sell in all 50 states. So it was like still some gray area. And I wanted to learn more about it. He's like, it's used for like pain and anxiety. And he knew I was trying to always go off of my medicine. So I just kind of went in and I just was experimenting. And literally in a week, I was able to taper myself off of my medication. And of course, it took a little while for me to play around with dosing. There was not a lot of studies out there. Everything was still like lock and key. Like now they're able to study in universities, and there's actually clinical trials going on where, 5 years ago there were not. So I kind of made myself a little clinical trial, and I started one by one helping my patients in the pharmacy. Anybody that I saw in their profile when I was filling their scripts that were maybe in a similar situation where they were taking medication for anxiety, or whether I saw them taking several different medications for pain, I would reach out to them and say, hey, there's these new products that we're bringing in the pharmacy. Are you willing to give them a try? And I just worked one-on-one with them to work towards whatever their goals were. And I just started seeing things very quickly of people decreasing their medication use and substituting out CBD, or, just seeing amazing results of, okay, I'm on 5 prescriptions and now I'm on 3. I don't need my anxiety medication, or I don't need my pills to go to sleep anymore. Or I'm not taking a half a bottle of, Advil every week. So it was just kind of an awesome phenomenon to be able to, to be able to help these people. And I share that in my chapter. And, and now I guess probably after doing that for maybe like 3.5 years, I decided I kind of wanted to dive more into like natural holistic care, which is why I enrolled in the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And it was kind of there that I found more about functional medicine. There were so many amazing speakers, different clinicians that shared their story of all different types of backgrounds, where, they were sharing how, their traditional approach to medicine, and some of them still integrated that, but how they incorporated, as clinicians, we don't learn enough about nutrition and about self-care and about, lifestyle modifications. We don't learn about that in school. We just don't. They don't talk about it, or if they do, they talk about it minimally. So the first thing that we should be talking to people about, especially when you go visit the doctor and you're going for a visit and you're talking about what's going on in your body, the first thing that we should be talking about is, what is your diet like? What is your lifestyle like? What are we doing here? And I think that's become lost in our healthcare system. And I know that so many clinicians talk about this, and so many good doctors say, I just don't even, you get 9 minutes based on an insurance mandate to talk to somebody, understand, prescribe, and get them out the door, and on this rolling cycle. So learning more about functional medicine and being able to start my own practice, Balance Wellness Solutions, I'm able to work one-on-one with patients, to take that time to listen to them, to talk about the root cause of their illness, to treat it from there, from the ground up, instead of saying, okay, here's your prescriptions, go on your way. And yes, some of them, there's a need for some of those prescriptions, but a lot of them is, hey, let's talk about lifestyle modifications. Let's talk about, getting rid of some of these prescriptions and about feeling good, because you can go to every doctor under the sun. I see it all the time where it's one specialist after another and they circle back around and they still don't feel good. They're still, well, all your labs look fine, all your numbers look fine, you're fine, but they still don't feel fine, whether it be they're in pain or whether they're tired or whether it's brain fog or focus or just a lack of energy in general. Like, I'm just not feeling well, is what I hear from my clients all the time.
So, Balanced Wellness Solutions, tell us about that. Was that before or after the book?
That was before the book. That started about the beginning of like 2001. And it was kind of just my little side business that I had, where I would do consultations and, a lot of CBD consultations, supplement consultations. And it wasn't until August of 2021 that I started to work with Dr. Kourtney Manukyan in the functional medicine space, where I learned of all these things that I could do to kind of really help people get to that root cause. Lots of labs that as a pharmacist I never was aware that I could do, to look at, to learn how to read and get to that root cause. Like we were saying before, taking a look at minerals and mineral imbalances and heavy metals in the body, or looking and taking a test of micronutrients and fatty acids to make sure, hey, is there something out of balance? If you're not getting the right fatty acid, you're not absorbing your micronutrients. Are you lacking in any of those? Is it enough where we can change it with nutrition, or is it, to the point where we need to supplement and maybe get you on a good supplement regimen to get you there? Looking at gut health, taking a test to see if there's any kind of leaky gut or any kind of microbial overgrowth, parasites, fungal overgrowth. There's so many things going on in the gut. And when you get the gut right, I mean, that's a whole nother topic we could talk about all day, getting that gut in balance and having both the good and bad bacteria and keeping the bad things out. Again, taking tests, whether it be a stool test or a blood test, to see what you have going on. Patients that have food sensitivities or food allergies, that, sometimes it could be one little thing that you're putting in or even on your body. I've seen somebody have a reaction to the deodorant and toothpaste they were using, couldn't lose 5 pounds to save their life, doing all the right things, eating all the right foods, working out, and no energy and just feeling blah, and realizing after taking a sensitivity test that one of these ingredients actually was causing they were literally poisoning themselves, brushing their teeth and putting on deodorant every day. So,
Wow.
I know it's pretty crazy, really crazy. And then it's like the light bulb goes on, and it's I was just working with a client a couple months ago who was getting this weird allergy on her face. It was not presenting the way that we would think of as a traditional allergy of like hives on the torso. She was getting these weird breakouts on her face, and the allergist literally laughed at her and was like, "That's from using retinol products. You're not allergic to anything." I did some allergy testing. She had a severe beta casein allergy, like to any kind of dairy cow milk product. And I mean, it was pretty serious. Like, it was an actual allergic reaction, like a mast cell response, where it was like, girl, you need an EpiPen because you don't know, this could get worse. And she was getting these flare-ups on her skin. It was terrible. But just that one test, that the regular doctor would like kind of laughed at her and was like, yeah, no, it's not an allergy. And it was.
So on your website, you talk about a book of free consult. So what does a free consult entail?
A free consult is, come meet me. Let's chat. Let's see if we match. Let's see if I can help you. Tell me what's going on. It's just a little get to know you kind of conversation, and just, hey, let's see if we can do something. What's the next steps? Do you want to book a full-fledged, comprehensive health review where, we do some paperwork and really take a deep dive into your health history and look at what the next steps are? Do we want to run some labs? Do we want to, talk about some supplements or nutrition? Everybody is so different, where they present so differently. So where it's something, more serious going on, where it's like, let's look at some labs, or if it's just, let's look at, what's going on, treating some symptoms with some supplements and nutrition, making sure that's all in check, teaching people how to decrease their toxic load and use, better products and just cleaner products and eat the right foods.
So tell us some, for, one of the things that's great about our podcast is I get to have, super smart people on like you, and I get to learn a lot. So it's very educational. So I always ask questions that I kind of want to know the answer to, and I'm always wondering if our listeners and viewers want to know the answer. But speaking of heavy metal toxicities and testing for toxins like that, you mentioned hair analysis, and I've been familiar with that for 20 plus years. I don't know a lot about it, so tell us about it.
Okay, so basically what it is instead of looking at something where you're taking a vial of blood and you're looking what's going on in your body over a short amount of time, when you take a hair test and you cut just some hair from kind of like this area around the back, and you just give a sample of like fresh, clean hair. So it's like if you get your hair colored, you want it to be a fresh root, and you send it in, analyzed. It's looking at a trend. So it's looking at a period depending on how long that root has grown. So let's just say like 2.5, 3 months. You're looking at a trend in your body of what's going on, and not just like a smaller picture. You're looking at a little bit of a larger time frame. And this test is definitely not a diagnostic test where you look at it and say, okay, this is what you have going on. You can definitely see. A lot of times when I look at people's results, I can tell right away if they have well water. I'll ask them like questions. A lot of times when I do the test with them, I'll read their results and they'll be like, are you a witch? What? You're like, just describing it. Like people look at me, or they're like, I'm on a Zoom call with them and they're like, girl, what? Like they just like, it's so telltale when you're like, okay, this is imbalanced. So like it really, the minerals in your body, when they're imbalanced, they can definitely make people feel clinical in specific ways. So if something is off, and whatever it may be, let's just say where we're looking at, instead of like, sometimes you'll see like calcium levels are like through the roof, but it's like your calcium levels should be like in your bones, not in your soft tissue. So it's
Right.
kind of like okay, what are we going to do about that? Like we have to make sure that you're getting the right vitamin D or the right magnesium that's going to support the vitamin D. So it's kind of like a trickle down effect. So it's kind of looking at not just the minerals themselves, because sometimes they can come up and everything can be sort of in the normal range. There's ratios, and there's different ratios of minerals that really focus on your different hormones. So it could be where your sex hormones, your adrenal hormones, your thyroid. And usually when the ratio is off, I'll be like, hey, are you experiencing blah, 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 blah? And they look at me like, yes, I am. Right. And it kind of describes them to a T when that ratio is off. And then what you can do, basically, depending on how severe it is, if it's just kind of like minor, we can talk about nutrition of foods that contain those minerals. And then sometimes if it's more severe, it's like, hey, if you have too much copper in your body, let's take some like zinc to balance it out. So it's like, let's put you on a supplement regimen for a couple of months and see if you're feeling better. If, nutrition doesn't seem enough, like you have to eat a whole lot of something to get to something to be clinical, where it's like, we might need to supplement a little bit. So it's really
well. And so you mentioned the well water. I'm assuming you mentioned well water because you can see they probably have higher mineral content if they use well water. Is that true?
They do. And it's usually kind of almost off the chart. Like it's almost like they're in like you're still not toxic, but like it's like there's a lot going on. So, some of it is, okay, you can kind of escape that by doing different things, by using other water to, cook with, drink. But, you still have to take it for what it is, where, you're still bathing in that water. You're still absorbing some of that water. Even though I remember I did one on a younger girl. She was 17, and I forget what level. There was like 2 levels that were up, and me and her mom were talking, and she was like, well, we were up at the lake all summer and she was swimming there, and we were like, and then we were like, I wonder if we were to take a test like now, if that would have come down, just because she was up at the lake and she was in the lake all the time. And they were 2 things. I forget what minerals they were, but it kind of like clicked when we were both talking about it. We were like, that makes sense. So it's really interesting. It's really a cool test. Like I said, it's not diagnostic, but it really can lead you to the next steps of how you want to go with nutrition supplements, or even like This does really seem off. You might want to go get your thyroid levels checked, just to make sure that there's nothing going on. But even so, a lot of these things, instead of medication, if you have a mineral imbalance, you can fix your thyroid with balancing out your minerals. And that's like the cool thing about it. Like, you don't have to just run to prescription medication. You can actually, fix it by nutrition and supplements.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know. They don't know that. For thyroid, we specialize in hormone replacement. But if you don't take the right nutrients, your thyroid, you can balance your thyroid, but it's not going to be optimal without selenium, without iodine. So very, very, nutrition is very, very important overall.
It is, and I think that's something that I like to preach, because a lot of people don't know, and if you don't know, you don't know. It's I think that to put it into perspective to people, and I know sometimes it seems hard, like even looking at things that are just, the ever so, out there, gluten, cutting gluten from your diet. There's so many people, like, let's face it, gluten in general just causes inflammation in your body, and inflammation in your body is bad. So, if anybody wants to say, let's cut something from there, that's like a good start to say, it's not doing anything good to your body. It's only causing inflammation. So it's kind of like when people start with something, well, like, what can I do? Just kind of decreasing added sugars, the things that just cause, no nutrient value, just more or less causing inflammation, and just, fixing it from the root up, eating more cleaner foods, less packaged processed, eating foods that are organic, so they're not putting the pesticides in their bodies. It's just, it's just all about that balance.
Well, I think, just going back to the functional medicine, really, instead of adding things, whether it be a supplement or whether it be a food or whether it be anything, instead of adding anything, functional medicine can be taken away. It's like, what is causing the problem? Well, let's take that away first. It's probably easier to take something away than it is to add something. So
it's true. It's so true. And I, and I go back and forth with that too. Even when I work with like different clients that might be like younger, trying to promote like younger girls that like, you don't want to kind of even tell them, like, take them away. So it's kind of like it's like, know your audience and who you're with. Like, is it something where we think that there could be a sensitivity, or is it something where you have this busy lifestyle, you are not eating right? Like, a fatigued dancer who's like in school all day, running, doing college applications, going to dance class all night, running, teaching a dance class to the younger kids. And it's like, well, what did you eat today? Okay, well, maybe that's why you're feeling not good. Like, let's, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're eating the right things. Even if it's on the go, you can still get the right nutrients in. You just have to be cognizant of what you're putting in.
Or let's not forget, what time did you go to bed last night? Oh, you only got 3 hours of sleep. Well, there you go.
Exactly. So important. Sleep is like everything.
I tell people all the time that sleep is more important than food. It's more important than exercise. And if you're not sleeping, nothing is going to be optimal. Nothing. I mean, you have to be sleeping. So
it's true.
So Kourtney, thanks for being on today. In the few minutes that we have left, tell us how to tell us about your book signing. Tell us your latest book signing and when the next one is.
Yeah, so I'm actually doing one this Friday, April 29th, for anybody that's local to in Pennsylvania, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. I'm doing one at Peaceful Journeys Wellness Center, and it's my very first one. I know a lot of the authors are more from the West Coast, so I don't have many. There's actually some of the girls that wrote the last book are going to come to support because they're local. But most of the authors from this one are West Coast. So they're actually having a retreat in California this weekend. So I said, all right, I'm going to do it this weekend here. We'll have our own little East Coast party. So we're kind of celebrating together via Zoom. But so you can get the book on Amazon, and it's under the Story collection. There's this is the second book in the series, and it's called Creating the Functional Medicine Revolution, and it's on Amazon. You can search it. You can get the Kindle version, or you can get the paperback version, and it's awesome. It's just a great compilation of stories for anybody that wants to know more about functional medicine, or really actually hear some actual stories from people of how they changed their health and their practice, and just how there's so many different areas. Each one of us has a different wheelhouse that some people were in such a debilitating place where, like I said, even Dr. Manukyan, where she started this whole phenomenon and this whole program for people to go through to learn more about it, just based on the fact that she was told by her doctor, she literally has 2 small kids, and she heard, "You are going to die," and she was like, put the brakes on, and just everything. She just lost the weight. She just it just changed everything. So you hear these stories from people, and it's so inspiring. I'm so inspired by these other clinicians as well. A great compilation. So I highly recommend it. It's a good read, good to learn more about functional medicine, and also to hear, clinicians, their perspective, and, the different things that you can do, like you can kind of put yourself in other people's shoes and say, wow, that sounds a lot like me. I'd like to change something that I'm doing as well.
Well, Kourtney, as always, thank you for being on our show, and
Thank
congratulations on your book.
you.
We're going to have you on again. I don't know, this hair analysis thing I'm really intrigued by. So maybe if you could devote a half hour of time to that, maybe we could do that, or we could go over some examples or something and how somebody's health was changed because of the hair analysis.
I should probably do another one. I did one when I was in the major, like my adrenals were off the charts. It was like in the middle of like doing like all of the COVID shots testing in the pharmacy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working for me, Shawn. It wasn't working for me. I think off the charts, the chart ended and my numbers were like still going up when I took my test. So I would like to see now, that was like back in like the early fall. So I'd like to see a test now, and maybe we can compare the two. I can do it.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. Very.
All right. Well, always a pleasure to have you on. I'm sure we will have you on again, and stay in touch, Kourtney. Thank you for educating and empowering our listeners and viewers to take care of their own health.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And listeners and viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to our midweek podcast. And Monday, as our normal podcast, we will have, who do we have on? Let me see here. Actually, it'll be Tuesday because I will be traveling to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We will have, I have to look it up. So, but tune in 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesday, and tune into our podcast. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in. You've been listening to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you so much.